Since you asked about the industry, the myth, let me translate in terms of the stakeholders and links. Everybody acknowledges and accepts that the electric vehicles are expensive, right? So the OEM says that, okay, the expense part, let it be borne by the customer or the fleet operator. Okay. Now, the fleet operator says, okay, it is expensive, it is definitely loss making. Let the losses be borne by, right, the logistics companies or players like Amazon's Big Baskets, etc. And from there on, yes, it is expensive, per order delivery is going high. So let the losses be borne by the charge point operators, right? So the reason why I made this particular statement is because one myth everybody carried initially was that the running cost is only 1/5 of a regular ICE engine. And then you have, I would say, the vehicles are just like any other electronics product. You really don't need to repair. It is all about replacement. Like the way you don't take your fans and your lights to service stations, you don't have to take electric vehicles to service stations. While these are all true and factual things, but then of course the total cost of ownership over 10 years, 15 years is excellent. These are all the beautiful, I would say, petals on the rose that we see. But then the unfortunate things that hurt us when we hold that rose are the thorns, right? What are those thorns? Initial capex, right? And for example, at least for the CPOs, the unseen sunk cost. Example, to set up a charging station, 30% of my cost is, do you know, eaten by whom? The government, through their discom regulations, transformers, panels, and permissions and demands that we pay for them. 30% of cost is eaten by them. Probably another 30% is only by the charger. So the charger manufacturers, you are good. Not all the expenses by you. And another 30% you need to have at least a decent canopy, right? Otherwise, Omkar was telling, right, that, and of course, Pritish was also mentioning that people tend to scroll only in the cars because there is no much entertainment, I would say, activities in the charge zone. Those are very MVPs at this point of time. So the very myth that charge point businesses are easy, charging businesses are easy. It is a simple energy trading business. You get the input cost at around 7 rupees. You sell it at 70 rupees. 10 rupees margin. No other industry has got such a margin, right? These are the myths. And then you have fleet operators who would bargain you for 10 paisa, 5 paisa, 15 paisa, 20 paisa. Real. These are not stories. These are real conversations, right? Yeah.
Like us.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Along similar lines, I think what Kapil mentioned just now.
Correct. So it's simple, right? EV business is all about your STD booth business in the past. You might have a phone, but then the longer the phone is engaged, the more the money you make. Similarly, the longer the charger is engaged, the more the units that are dispensed and more the money you make. So the ideal way to actually make any EV charging business profitable is to have anchor customers. That's what we have begun with and that's what we believed in. That's what we are doing it right now. Before we spend a single penny on any charging station, before we spend any single penny on any charging station, and by the way, our charging stations are generally 0.5 megawatt, 1 megawatt, 0.3 megawatt with 240 kilowatt charging stations and above. We ensure that the particular charging station has got a signed contract with a customer with minimum number of units committed at so and so unit economics in terms of the charging per kilowatt hour. Now, this doesn't ensure the profitability of the charger from day one, but it ensures that at least 60 to 70% of my ROI is assured, and the margins, of course, are low. But then the rest of the flip of 30% or so, that's where I get it from the B2C customers. That's where I have higher margins, etc. So for any charge point operator, for the unit economics to really work, they need to ensure that at least 60 to 70% of their occupation is guaranteed despite having lower margins through contractual, I would say, engagements. And 30% is left out where you can build margins and you can build more revenues.
Okay, and how many CPOs do you believe are able to do that today? And 60% of, contractual business.
Yeah, so one litmus test to that is, I am the only company at this point of time able to raise debt funds from the banks. Now, there is a reason why I was able to raise debt funds from the banks, because banks look at positive EBITDA and positive PAT for every project before they finance, unlike the VCs and the PEs. Now, when I made this statement, I am the only company. Now, I am also talking on behalf of Karthikeya, Static, right, Bolt, Kazam. Right, all these companies at this point of time that you see, they have raised very good funds from the VCs, but then from an EBITDA and profitability perspective, they are not yet there. Of course, they're building value. So if you were to ask me, is there anybody who is doing it? Maybe they're doing it. But yeah, I will take little pride in saying that we have done it, and we have also seen the results through. And at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding is whether you have cash left out end of the month, and that's where we are. Yeah. Good question, Divya. I'll answer this question, and I also want to pick some points on franchise. First, to talk about the grid independent chargers. So, when we installed our fast charging station at National Miller Development Corporation head office in Hyderabad, the chairman asked, we intend to introduce the trucks across our, I would say, mines. But then the problem statement is our depots have grid, but then our mines don't have grid. Can you do something about setting up a charging infra which is grid independent in those mines? That was when we, I would say, scanned across the world, and we acquired a company from Germany called Me Energy. It is basically an ethanol based generator cum dispenser that can dispense 150 kilowatt capacity, a tank that can store up to 2000 liters, and an energy storing capacity is roughly about around 4 megawatt hour. So with this, what happens is this can be trailer mounted, this can go to the grid, this can go to the mines and can be stationed there. All we need to solve is the supply chain issue in terms of ethanol. And what happens is this we call liquid electricity or miracle machine. That means we cut down the times of 2 to 3 months of power connections and those DISCOM regulations. Number two, we make it accessible everywhere and anywhere. In fact, we are also in discussions with few bus operators, fleet operators, as well as bus manufacturers to mount these ethanol-based chargers on the trucks and make them accessible across the highways, lest there should be some breakdown for these buses. Because right now at a 150 kilowatt mobile charging stations which are grid independent are not there, right? So that's the answer. Second thing, when it comes to franchising, I strongly believe that any technology would only flourish when it is democratized. When I mean democratized, it's a very polished word, but what I mean is when you bring public money into the industry. And the only way you bring retail money into the industry is by luring them with better returns. For example, right? When we started EV franchising for ThunderPlus, we thought franchising means only one thing. That particular investor has got some place and money, and he pays that money to me, and then I invest the charging station. But only when we entered into franchising business, we realized that there are 6 models of franchises which I am running right now. And do you know, among all of them, what is the best model that is picking up? The best model that is picking up from a franchisee perspective is a sleeping investor. Now, what do I mean by sleeping investor? A software employee, a retired person, or a young entrepreneur who has got 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, 50 lakh rupees to park. Now, I go and appeal to him. If you invest the same in the fixed deposit, you have around 6% returns. Maybe in the mutual funds, probably 10%, 11%. Again, it is highly volatile. You might get 12 to 13% in the stocks, but again, not very much, pretty much assured. But this is where I entered a contractual agreement with them, where I said, this money I'm going to invest in portion of my project. My project might be costing, say, 1 CR. You become 30% owner of that particular project, and I guarantee you 12% minimum assured business. Now, what do you mean by 12% minimum assured business? Ideally, you should be making around 15% or 16% if things work out well. In certain cases, if he makes 8% or 9% returns, I pay the delta 3% to him, ensuring that he has got at least 12% returns, better than where all otherwise he can park the money. And this is gaining momentum from the charging perspective. So for me, the upside is instead of picking a loan at 13-14% rate of interest, I would rather get a better loan at a 12% rate of interest. And the word of mouth goes that he tells the other guy, and then a 12% constant monthly money that gets in is a great kick for them. So the answer is, I think franchisee where the retailers must come into context, and CPOs needs to bring multiple, I would say, business models to lure them. And once they become the, I would say, part of the puzzle, it grows. See, I thought Kedar has been my friend until now, but then he just announced that he is building his own charge point network, right? But yes, we are all collaborators at the end of the day. But just to pick on this question, right? There is a great paradox in the question that you asked. For example, while all the other CPOs are generally startups, one of the legacy players who first started the CPO business was Tata Power, right? But then Tata Power recently announced that they might be looking at quitting this particular business. And the other legacy players who are now entering the business are, of course, Adani's and then the GOPPs, and now Mahindra is coming in, right? But The earlier two are yet to make their presence known. We really, I mean, when they come, they really come heavily, but not in the EV charging ecosystem, right? So, in such a context, I echo with the rest of the panel members that there is still time for us to play. And this process, if somebody, I mean, it is all about now speed and aggression, right? How fast you grow and how fast you expand. What is your length and breadth, right? And how deep you go in terms of the penetration. Once you are there, and if somebody asks me, would ThunderPlus be acquired? I would say, why not? Right? End of the day, I would either get onto a board on an NSE or probably get acquired by a bigger company. These are the only two, I would say, goals that I work for. I'm not here to do an R&D and then serve something else, right? So if somebody is very keen that they looked at the energy, the speed, the infra, and wanted to really acquire, thus can add value to their organization, the answer is definite yes. But will it happen today, tomorrow? No. I think there is at least 3 to 5 year window before that happens, but definitely the market consolidates.
All right, great, great. So we're already out of time. It was nothing there. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.